Good morning, everyone. I hope you all have had a good night. Today, I want to start with two remarks that reached me in the evening yesterday. Somebody asked, what is on the bag that you always carry around? Well, as you can see quite clearly, this is the opera house of the Saxon State Opera, better known as the Semper Opera. Remember, we visited it on our second day. Yesterday we were in Moritzburg. Somebody asked me to point out that every August the Moritzburg Festival is held there. It's one of the most famous festivals for chamber music in the world, really charming. They also give concerts around Moritzburg, even in Dresden. The musical director is Jan Vogler, a cellist, who is also the musical director of the Dresden Music Festival. As you know, more questions are always welcome. But now let's look at our itinerary. Today we're going to visit a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Mind you, not a building, not a district, not a town, but a whole region, the Ore Mountains mining region. Sounds industrial? Yeah, of course there are mining monuments there. But that alone wouldn't have made it a UNESCO World Heritage Site. What's unique about it is the way that mining has shaped the landscape, the architecture, the culture and the people for more than 850 years. We are going to visit Freiberg, the source of Saxon wells, Germany's Christmas capital, the village of Seifen, and the queen of the mining towns, Annaberg Buchholz. Let's start with Freiberg. Don't say you've been there. You are thinking of Freiburg in the Black Forest. Different name, different spelling, different meaning. I promise you that our Freiberg is every bit as beautiful and interesting as the Freiburg you know or you have heard of. Saxony was the richest part of Germany until World War II. So where did the wells come from? Well, the southern regions of Saxony were primeval forests known as miriquidi. Only in the 13th century the forests were cleared and villages were established. One of them was Christiansdorf. When in 1268 silver ore was found here, Christiansdorf was quickly transformed into the town of Freiberg, meaning the mountain of the free. Named so because the miners were free people who just had to give a share of what they found to the Saxon ruler, Otto, Margrave of Meissen. In the Middle Ages, Freiberg was one of the richest towns in Europe. The medieval character is still there. There are many historic buildings, even the fortifications are still there, and Margrave Otto today is known as Otto the Rich. And you can see his monument here in the middle of the upper market square. And we're lucky, today is market day. This is a specialty from Freiberg. Freiberg Eierschecke. It's very different from the Eierschecke, the typical Saxon cake that you find elsewhere in Saxony, which is normally called the Dresden Eierschecke. This one doesn't have any curd cheese, and it is said they couldn't put it in, they weren't allowed to put it in even, because the curd was needed to hold the stones in the town walls together. Freiberg is just 45 minutes away from Dresden, either by car or by a scenic ride on the train. Mining informed the whole region and shaped the people, the landscape, the culture. And in 2019, the Ore Mountains were declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, known as Ore Mountains Mining Region. And the historic town center of Freiberg is deservedly one of the parts of that UNESCO World Heritage Site. Behind me is Freudenstein Castle. It was originally erected by Margrave Otto to protect the silver mining. In the 16th century, it was replaced with the current structure in the Renaissance style. Later it became a granary. In the first decade of the 21st century, it was renovated to house the mining archive and also the Terra Mineralia, a collection of minerals from all over the world. Sounds boring? Think again. The collection is by a lady who was a member of the family who founded Weller, the hair care company here in Saxony. And she had agents all over the world who collected for her minerals just for their rarity and their beauty. It's absolutely amazing. Let's go inside and have a look at them. This is the treasure chamber. Freiberg Cathedral is deceptively plain from the outside, but a true treasure trove from the inside. It's a typical late Gothic hall church which was erected between 1484 and 1501. Let's take a look around. The impressive Romanesque Golden Gate from the previous church building was incorporated into the Gothic structure. In the old days, it was very colorful, looked like this. After the Reformation, the choir of the church was transformed into the new burial site of the royal family. It was decorated in the Mannerist style. The outstanding piece here is the grave of Elector Maurice behind me. If you look at the ceiling, you see that it depicts heaven with an orchestra of angels. At the last renovation, they found out that most of the instruments that the angels carry are real. So they were replicated, and now they're able to perform music from that time in a very authentic way. The large organ and the two smaller ones were created by one of the greatest organ builders of the Baroque age, Gottfried Silbermann. Incidentally, Silbermann means silver man. He had his workshop here in Freiberg, in a house next to the castle, and there's a small museum in there now. Probably the most interesting piece of art in this church is one of the two pulpits. Next to the miner's pulpit is the so-called tulip pulpit, which has the shape of a tulip. It is a masterpiece created by Hans Witten, who is responsible for some of the most interesting pieces of art from the late Gothic period. Freiberg has many things to offer. Of course, there are also mining monuments. One of the mines, the Reiche Zeche or Rich Pit, is even still in operation and used by the university, which is still called Mining Academy, to teach students from all over the world about mining. And it's also open to visitors. The tradition of the miners are also still very much alive here. Not only in Freiberg, but also in the whole Ore Mountains. In the Ore Mountains, they say, everything originates from mining. While this is definitely true in the Ore Mountains, it reaches further than that. Without the silver from the Ore Mountains, Saxony would not have become a wealthy region in the Middle Ages and stayed on top of the game until World War II. The thick forests of the Ore Mountains and the wood from the trees were essential for the mining, and the miners were very familiar with working with wood. When mining became less profitable in certain parts of the Ore Mountains, new products were needed to supplement the income. Wood provided an answer. In the area around Annaberg-Buchholz, wood carving was cultivated, still mainly as a hobby. But in the area around Marienberg, wood turning became a livelihood. This is where Seifen comes in. It is just 45 minutes away from Freiberg. Seifen is a very scenic village on the Czech border, where many famous Christmas ornaments were invented and are still made today. This wasn't always the case. In the beginning, products for daily use dominated. But in the 19th century, toys had become the main focus and they were exported all over the world. Today, Christmas ornaments dominate. So, let's go and visit the place where it feels like it is Christmas every day. Welcome to Germany's Christmas capital, Seifen. Not a town, as a lot of people believe, but just a village, if a very scenic one. Creating products from wood is very common in the Ore Mountains, but the craftsmen here in Seifen invented such bestsellers as the nutcracker in the shape that we know today. The family who invented the nutcracker is still in business today, in the 6th generation. But here in Seifen, everybody seems to be involved in either creating or selling these kind of products. The early bestsellers were toys, but now Christmas products dominate. So it feels like in Seifen there's Christmas every day. We are here at one of the demonstration workshops. In fact, the first Seifen demonstration workshop. In this place you can see how the products are made, and you can even try your hand at assembling your own product or decorating it. Here you can see the various stages of creating a chip tree. That's a real art form. The history of the Seifen craftsmen and their product can be explored in the Ore Mountains Toy Museum. The Ore Mountains Toy Museum also runs an open-air museum with houses which have interiors from around 1900. Each stands for a different profession. And in one of the houses you find a profession that only exists in Seifen, the wheel turner. Remember, the early bestsellers were toys, and the most successful product was Noah's Ark. To rationalize the production, the animals were made with a new technique. First, a wheel was formed out of wood. Then the structure was carved into it. I still don't know how these guys do it. You will see it, it's amazing. And then the finishing touches were applied. That saved a lot of time. Look, these are clearly elephants. This is the famous octagonal church of Seifen, also known as the Miners' Church. It is modeled after the Church of Our Lady in Dresden. And you can find it in a lot of the products that the Seifen craftsmen are creating. I'm here to meet Pastor Michael Harzer, who will play the organ for us. Guten Tag, Herr Pfarrer Harzer.
Guten Tag, welcome in Seifen.
What are you going to play for us today?
I play Großer Gott, wir loben dich.
Oh, okay. The people in the Ore Mountains still greet each other with Glück auf instead of Guten Tag. This is the traditional miners' greeting, which originates in the 16th century and is from Saxony. It has two meanings. First of all, it expresses the wish that the person greeted might find another load of ore, for which he really needed luck, because prospecting was the only way at that time. It was also a good luck wish, so that this person will reach the surface safely after his shift. At this moment, I would have liked to welcome our next guest, Ines Hanisch-Lupaszko, the managing director of the Ore Mountains Tourism Association, but she had to cancel on short notice, and she's very sorry she can't be here with us today. But luckily, I have good connections to her predecessor, my boss. Welcome back, Veronica, and Glück auf.
Glück auf, Wolfgang.
So, in the summer of last year, 2019, the Ore Mountains became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You accompanied the process for a long time. How was the reaction in the Ore Mountains when this was announced?
Absolutely overwhelming. There was like a wave of relief, of happiness, of pride, which was rolling all over the region. And the people now are very, very proud of their World Heritage title. And maybe it's because people have a very strong attachment to their region. And to a large extent, the concept and the development of the World Heritage nomination came from citizens' initiatives. So I think it's also because, another reason might be because they are very proud, might be because it took them a very long time to achieve the title. 16 years have passed between the listing of the so-called mining cultural landscape Erzgebirge Krušnohory, very hard word, in the official German tentative list until the day the nomination or the award of the title became true last year.
Ah. Why did this process take so long?
To select the nominated component parts, an extensive process was initialized based on transparency, on communication, and on involvement of a lot of different stakeholders throughout the whole region. And 27 implementation studies were conducted in close collaboration with the communities, with expert authorities, with object owners, and with the citizens. And a broad-based consensus was reached in the region on the selection and the nomination of all the different objects. And this participatory process also has a lasting influence of the awareness of UNESCO World Heritage in the whole region. And the region did not achieve the title on the first blow. They had to try it twice. The challenge was not that they didn't have enough objects, but they had too much objects. And so the first proposal, with I think several hundreds of different objects, had to be stripped down enormously to fit in the UNESCO criteria. But for tourists, I think this is quite good, because you can see such a lot more objects than those who have the UNESCO title.
Mm-hmm. I can still remember going to the discussion many years ago about a potential UNESCO World Heritage Site, and there were a lot of critical voices there who said, oh God, we can't do this, this will stop all development in the Ore Mountains, and so on and so on. Are these voices still around, or have they been silenced in the meantime?
No, indeed, there have been really a lot of critical voices. And I think some people just have been worried that the region will preserved as a whole like a museum, and so that no economic development would be possible anymore. Of course, you have some restrictions when you are World Heritage Site. So let me make an example. It won't be allowed to build a new skyscraper in the city center of Annaberg-Buchholz. So nobody likes to do that. But if somebody likes to do that, it won't be forbidden now. So you have to preserve the state like it is when the title was given to the region. And also, some people had Dresden in the back of their minds, because, as you know, Dresden lost the UNESCO World Heritage title when they built up a new bridge through the Elbe River. And I think some people worried, would it happen also to the Ore Mountains region or something like that? But a normal development of the region, of course, is still possible. So everything is fine now.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned hundreds of objects. What exactly is part of this UNESCO site?
That's quite difficult to explain, because the mining cultural landscape, Erzgebirge Krušnohoří, is a very, very complex World Heritage Site. Because you don't have only one object, as you mentioned in the introduction, like the Cathedral of Cologne or something like that. You have 22 component parts, 17 on the German side and 5 on the Czech side. And those component parts consist of a lot of single objects, and only on the German side you have about 400 different and single objects which are World Heritage now. And so this makes everything very complex and very difficult to explain. But among those component parts you have, for example, the city centers of Schneeberg, of Freiberg, of Annaberg-Buchholz or Marienberg. You have some churches, you have mining water management systems, sinkholes, ore washing works, a lot of different mines, and yeah, nearly 400, or taking the Czech objects together, around 500 different objects.
So guys, no reason to be scared, you will find the right places to visit. One other thing that makes it special is that it's a binational UNESCO World Heritage Site, a German and Czech World Heritage Site, to be precise. How has the cooperation been with the Czech side?
Very, very good. And right from the beginning, there was a real good collaboration with colleagues of the Czech side, because it is a transboundary project. And the project is based on a German-Czech World Heritage nomination dossier, and there are several mixed working groups with Germans and Czech people on all operational and political levels. And I think the UNESCO World Heritage title has strongly connected the region across the border.
That's very nice to hear. Having received the UNESCO World Heritage title must have an influence on the marketing of the region, I'm sure.
Yes, of course. The UNESCO World Heritage title will definitely boost tourism in the region, and especially since these fascinating objects cannot be visited in one day, so the people have to stay a little longer in the region. And I think a very special thing is that there's a close relation between the beautiful UNESCO World Heritage objects and the landscape, and everything is so nearby. So this gives you the possibility to create new tourism products. And in the past, the marketing of the Ore Mountains region mainly focused on the German market, but now I think they changed their marketing strategy, and the Ore Mountains region now really has the chance to get a different customer's perception.
I'm sure you guys now all want to see the Ore Mountains also in real, but are there any weaknesses that you see that still have to be worked on before we can have guests from all over the world?
So it's not so easy to guide visitors through such a complex World Heritage site. And so I think it's important to create very concrete touristical products so that the region can be experienced in different ways. And very important, I think, is also that information and visitor centers are built up now, where the people can get an overview over the whole region and all the objects. And also, many of the objects have not been touristical developed before, because they were chosen and selected because of their mining legacy and their historical relevance, but not for touristical use. So from a touristical point of view, we have to make them available and relevant and interesting for the guests. And this also includes multilingual descriptions and signage.
But would you say the region has become more relevant to international tourists now than before?
Definitely, definitely. The UNESCO World Heritage title has put the region in the focus, especially in the focus of the whole world. And I think it's a great chance for the region to come into the minds of new guests and especially of international guests. And so far, a lot of international guests who are coming to Saxony focused mainly on the big cities of Dresden and Leipzig, and only about 4% of all guests of the Ore Mountains region in the past have been from abroad. But I think this will change rapidly now, because they do many measures in marketing to attract international guests.
We're working on it, guys, just with you to start with. There's also things that are not part of the UNESCO World Heritage, like we just saw this, what we call the Volkskunst, this products created from wood, the Ore Mountains here, especially in Seifen, but they're also made in other parts of the region. Also, for example, the miners' parades are on the list of immaterial World Heritage. So these miners' traditions are very much alive in the Ore Mountains. What meaning do they have for the people and also for tourism?
Those miners' parades are so beautiful, and the people are so proud of their living tradition and to preserve them, and the miners' parades are the most impressive symbol for that pride they have. And it's really great that the miners' parades also achieved the World Heritage title, and so we have a perfect combination in immaterial and material World Heritage. And every year in the advance season, you can experience those miners' parades each weekend on Saturday and Sunday in a lot of different towns in the Ore Mountains region. And looking in the faces of the old miners marching in the parades, you really can feel how proud they are on their tradition and to preserve their tradition. And yeah, it is really surprising that so many young people are organized in miners' association and miners' clubs and really try to preserve those traditions. And I think it's the best way to preserve it.
So you can see there's more that can be experienced than buildings, towns and other sites. It's very much also about the people of the Ore Mountains and their lifestyle and their traditions. Anything else you would like to add, what one can experience there?
Yeah, besides the miners' parades, you can visit a lot of the old mines, pits, shafts during the whole year. And many are opened to the public only because there are volunteers which keep them alive. So they do really a great job. And every year on the 1st of June, I think, there's the Mining Experience Day in the Ore Mountains, where visitors really can discover the Ore Mountains region as a whole. And there are quite a lot more real lively tradition. You mentioned Seifen, you mentioned the wood carving and something like that. And this is really well known. The famous wooden art works from candle arches, pyramids, smoking figurines, the nutcracker you already had in your little film. And every year on the 3rd of October, the 3rd Sunday of October, there is the traditional handicraft day in the Ore Mountains, where craftsmen from all over the region let you look over their shoulder and you can see how they are producing, and this is really nice. And you have wonderful churches, small little towns, but you also have beautiful landscapes where you can do active sports in summer and in winter time. So yeah, it's a really, really special area with a special kind of people and with some really special things which you can find only there in the Ore Mountains region. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you can see, there's a lot to do. And thank you, Veronica, for being with us again. Yeah, even if you don't like mining towns, miners' traditions, you know, and mining monuments, there's still a lot of beautiful landscape to see in the Ore Mountains. That's alone worth a visit. Also, the typical houses of the Ore Mountains have an architectural style of their own. So if you think medium-sized mountain ranges in Germany, don't only think Black Forest. There are many of them in Germany which are worth seeing. A very good way to see the countryside in Saxony is by traveling along the Via Romantica. It is a virtual, scenic, circular route which starts and ends in Dresden, and a long stretch of it also goes through the Ore Mountains region, touching on Freiberg, Seifen and Annaberg-Buchholz, our next destination. Well, Annaberg-Buchholz, that's a tale of two once competing towns, which were once divided even by border and by religion. And then they were forcefully united after World War II by the Soviet military administration and have now grown into the town of Annaberg-Buchholz. Welcome to Annaberg-Buchholz. Annaberg and Buchholz were united after World War II. Before they had been rivals. After Ernest and Albert had divided up Saxony in 1485, silver ore was found in this region. The successor of Ernest as elector, his son Frederick the Wise, chiefly known as the protector of reformer Martin Luther, founded Buchholz, and his cousin, George the Bearded, son of Albert, founded Annaberg. Both became rich mining towns, especially Annaberg, who became something like the capital of mining in Germany. When Annaberg and Buchholz were founded, Frohnau was already 100 years old. We are here at the Frohnau hammer mill, the oldest technical monument in Saxony. And we're going to get a demonstration of the old hammer technology now. it or not, this technology is from the 17th century. Oh, so loud. Most products were made for regional demand, but here's an interesting exception. If you see this, you see the letters AR, Augustus Rex. Yes, Augustus the Strong again. So this was made for the old Augustus Bridge in Dresden, which you can see here on the painting, or on the copy of the painting by Canaletto, the court painter of Augustus the Strong's son. At the back of the mining altar in St. Anne's Church, there's a unique depiction of mining and minting in the late Middle Ages. The church is one of the most important monuments from the late Gothic period. And it's also my favorite church in Saxony, just because it's so stunningly beautiful. The main altar is different from the other altars, even though it dates back to the same period. This one was made in Augsburg, where the early Renaissance had already taken root. Look at the vaulted ceiling. It depicts the Garden of Eden. Remember Hans Witten, the creator of the tulip pulpit? He also created the baptism for this church. And another piece of art that is even bigger. Come, follow me. This is rightfully called the Beautiful Door. Hans Witten originally created it for a Franciscan monastery here in Annaberg. It was later removed and then put up here in St. Anne's Church. The most colorful element in this church is the picture Bible along the balconies. At both ends of the balconies you find depictions of the life stages of men and women, and their respective behavior is always depicted with an animal. Strangely enough, the life stages of the men end with the picture of hell. The Miners' Church of St. Mary is the only church in Saxony built by and for miners. It was built at around the same time as St. Anne's Church. It's still used for church services of the Miners Association, but also for all kinds of other events. What makes it really special is the so-called Annaberg nativity set with 31 stations. The wooden statues show the Holy Family and citizens of Annaberg, all set at around the time of 1900. This is supposed to show also the connection between mining and the Christian faith. The city center of Annaberg-Buchholz is also part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site or Mountains Mining Region. Here at the Market Square, one of the largest Christmas markets of the region takes place every year. Like in all the other mining towns in Saxony, there's also a large miners' parade. Christmas is also a central theme of an exhibition called The Manufactory of Dreams. It's a collection of wooden items from the Ore Mountains collected by the same lady who collected the minerals in the Terra Mineralia. Annaberg-Buchholz is only 90 minutes away from Dresden, and you can also get here by train. In fact, the last stretch through the Ore Mountains is very, very scenic. The traditional cuisine of the Ore Mountains, still available in many restaurants, reflects the simple food of the miners. But on Christmas, even the miners pulled out all the stops. And that's what the people of the Ore Mountains still do today. Particularly on Christmas Eve, which is the focus of a German Christmas and the time when the gifts are exchanged. So, at that time, all the windows are beautifully decorated with candle arches, which reflects the longing of the miners for light. So what is put on the tables? Well, the actual ingredients vary a bit, but the traditional Christmas dinner always consists of 9 elements, all of which have a special meaning. It is not Christmas Eve today, but at a restaurant in Annaberg-Buchholz, they serve the traditional Ore Mountains Christmas dinner all year round, and in a unique way. This is the restaurant Zum Neinerlei in the town hall of Annaberg-Buchholz. Vielen Dank.
Guten Appetit für Sie.
Dankeschön. Neinerlei is the word in the Ore Mountains dialect for neunerlei, which means 9 things. It's the traditional Ore Mountains Christmas meal, which each component symbolizing a good wish for the new year. Normally, the 9 things are served in bowls, but in this restaurant, where the Neinerlei is also served all year round, they have a patented plate in which they put all the 9 things at the same time. Let me tell you what all these 9 things are about. We have milk with white bread pieces, slightly sweetened. That stands for Happy New Year. Then we have celery salad, and this is for fertility. Then we have lentils or lentil soup. That's for the small change, obviously. Then we have a sausage here, and that's for strength and for long life also. Next we have dumplings, the big money. And here's red cabbage. That's for good straw, a good harvest basically. And here we have a baked apple. And the baked apple, like all apples always, stand for good health. And we have red beets for beauty. And what's missing? Of course, the roast. That's for heartiness. So we have some really hearty food. Let's dig in. Oh, here comes my digestive. Another herbal liquor, this time from the Ore Mountains. Doesn't it look mean? But it's very interesting. Look at the color. I know it got late today, but let's have our traditional nightcap at Frank's Bar. Today, Ilya has prepared one of my favorites, a frozen plum daiquiri. So, what makes it so special is that in addition to rum, plums, lemon juice, sugar syrup, what you'd expect, it also includes frangelico, giving it a delicious hazelnut note. Cheers. Really good. So, we're at the time for your question again. I've got only one that I want to answer here, or not answer in a way. I was asked which Stollen is the best. Well, you know, Stollen, the traditional Christmas cake, originates from Dresden. But people would still argue if Dresden Stollen is better than Stollen from other places in Saxony. In fact, we did a blind tasting with Stollen from Dresden and the Ore Mountains, and the Ore Mountains Stollen won. Well, you know, Dresden Stollen is a protected trademark because the ingredients are clearly defined and only bakeries which have the seal can make the original Dresden Stollen. However, it makes sense when you come here to try different Stollens. And if you asked different people which Stollen is their favorite, you definitely got a different answer every time you ask the people. Some like it more heavy, some like it more moist, some like it more dry, some don't like raisins. Of course, the traditional one has to have raisins. There's also the so-called almond Stollen, yeah, which has no raisins. And of course, today there are a lot of different varieties. There's a chocolate Stollen which replaces raisin with chocolate pieces, which I like very much. Some have it with chocolate and raisins, so there's a large number of varieties. Anyway, Christmas is great. Today you've got a glimpse of Christmas in Saxony. Bear in mind that you can experience Christmas in Seifen all year round. There's also all these wonderful exhibitions that deal with the Christmas season, which you can have all year round. And you can do Stollen baking classes in various places if you come with a group. And you could, for example, also go to Herrnhut, where they make the famous Moravian stars, which were invented there. So there are a lot of things to see which have to do with Christmas outside the Christmas season. Also the gingerbread from Pulsnitz comes to my mind, which is eaten all year round, but of course is an important component of a Saxon Christmas. Yeah, you see, there's a lot to do at Christmas time and any time of the year. Let's look at tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow we will first go to a fantastic car museum, the August Horch Museum in Zwickau, which is the birthplace of Audi. And afterwards we will finally visit Saxony's largest city, Leipzig. A wonderful place, very different in character from Dresden. I hope you will enjoy this. The only bad news I have for you again is that the weather forecast for tomorrow is not particularly good again. But it's supposed to get better the day after. So tomorrow bring the umbrellas and be prepared. But otherwise, don't worry, gonna have a nice day again. So now sleep well and see you all in the morning. Good night.